Hi, it's Zia from Autistic Guide to the Galaxy. Okay, this is a bit of a different video from the last one, but this is called Unwritten Social Rules. So I actually made these years ago for the Autistic Guide to the Galaxy, and then someone just randomly liked it on the Instagram page, and it completely jogged my memory that they even existed in the first place. I totally forgot about them. So I thought I'd share some of them again for a wee laugh, but just because a lot of people found them really useful. If you are somebody that doesn't find them useful, that's fine. You don't need to pay any attention. There was a couple of negative feedbacks. Somebody said that the drawing was really childish, which to those people I say sorry, my drawing is not more adults like, but I am a 30-something-year-old child. And also somebody else said, yeah, obviously, everyone knows that. And I just thought, wow, what a privileged position to be in, because for starters, I obviously didn't, which is why I wrote half of them. And I obviously then must have came across or encountered at least one other person that was like, oh my God, that happens to me too, for me to be like, wow, this must be not a unique experience. Um, we should talk about this because I'd like less people to feel alienated. And that's what these wee guys are. They're the therapy aliens. And they're basically, I guess, a little symbol just to be like, yeah, like hope that they just help people feel less alienated. So yeah, they're part of Unwritten Social Rules series. It was basically about all social things people that they just expect you to know, without anyone explaining them properly. And it's also one of the main kind of starting points of Autistic Guide to the Galaxy was this guide that everybody else seems to have. Obviously not literally, but anyway, let's get into it. Right, so first one, how are you? So somebody says, how are you? So basically, it's generally understood that if someone says, and they're not a close friend or family member, and they say, hey, how are you? They're probably using it as a casual greeting rather than asking for a full update on your life. So in that context, they'd probably just expect like a light response or something brief like, oh, I'm fine, thanks, how are you? Or, oh, I'm okay, just a bit tired, how are you? Or if you've had like a really bad day, you could say, oh, it's one of those days, how are you getting on? Or whatever you would say. But I think that this one, because I spoke to a fair few people about this, and I think this one is more difficult because if somebody says, oh, yeah, it's just if whoever's a close friend or family member or whatever, that's who you probably would speak a bit more to. But like, what counts as a close friend and what counts as an acquaintance? And I do have a video on that being prepared, because there's a course on it on understanding relationships. But I think it's really what counts as someone you can be honest with. You might find out that someone that you thought was quite a close friend might actually turn out to be, I guess, more of an acquaintance, or somebody you just considered a general friend, actually like a friend of a friend. Or yeah, it's quite, the whole social hierarchy thing is quite difficult. So I think that makes it a bit confusing. And the other thing is that you should really share, I guess, who you're most comfortable with, what you want to share. But if you are somebody that typically overshares, then you might not know what you're comfortable with until afterwards, when you finally process it and think, oh, I think I overshared there. That was a bit too much. Oh, I'm actually really not comfortable with what I've said. So I guess if you're that type of person, if you've ever had an experience where you've had a social interaction, you've shared as much as you thought you were comfortable with, and then you've went away and you've thought about it and thought, actually, I'm not comfortable, you probably might be missing the feeling of discomfort on the spot. You might, I don't know, maybe you're socially anxious, or maybe you don't really think about it at all. Maybe you don't think about how you're feeling. There's about 1,000 different reasons. Alexithymia, there's loads of things. Obviously 1,000 was a bit of a over exaggeration, bit of overestimation there, but there's a few. So if you're that person that's had that experience and then went home and thought about it, then you probably might need to tone down what you're sharing with people. I guess that is the signal. It's just coming a day later, or however many days you take to process. But yeah, I think giving somebody a brief thing, like even if it's like terrible, like I'm saying, if it's you can say, oh, it's one of those days. How was yours? Gives people a bit of information without feeling that you've got to then give them a full director's cut of your life's movie. And yeah, how much you share, as I say, depends on the person. It depends on the setting, how much you actually want to say. I mean, like, let's say you're in Tesco. I don't know why I said Tesco. I don't even shop in Tesco. I'm a little loyal. Um, but let's say you're in Tesco. You might not feel comfortable, even if you bump into a friend, you might not feel comfortable sharing how your day's actually going in public. And somebody could overhear and think, God. But yeah, a few different contexts there. But most people that are not close friends and family aren't really asking how are you. It's kind of just a formality. It's kind of like an alternative version of hi. It's just an addition to the hi. Right, the next one is very similar. Just what you've been up to. Same thing. So yeah, same as how are you. So sometimes people actually are asking like properly, obviously, but I think a lot of the time it's just like casual conversation. So they really don't need like a full detailed timeline of everything that you've done since they last saw you. Which, plot twist, is something that I was at my sister's, and my sister's mother-in-law was there, and I hadn't seen her for months. And yeah, that's what I did. I just told her everything I'd done for like the last 8 months. And afterwards, I was like, why have I done that? Obviously. Obviously, she was just asking what now, like, this was years ago. Now I would be like, nothing much, just working, working. I normally, that's my usual default, just working, And then, what about you? Like, I normally kind of just ask questions of other people because it's more comfortable than talking, because I usually overshare something. So yeah, something short is usually all right for most people, unless it's somebody you're pretty close with. Being busy, just the usual. That's a favourite one. I hear a lot of people saying that, just the usual. Had a lot on, but nothing exciting. That's one of my friends. Most common statements. Oh, busy, but nothing exciting. And then you can give more detail, I guess, if somebody asks follow up questions, and they might actually genuinely be interested. So I guess think of it like somebody asks what you've been up to and you give them a trailer. So, when you're watching a movie trailer, don't give them the whole film, just give them the trailer. Honestly, just like, or highlights. And then always make sure to follow up with what have you been up with. We need that reciprocal chat back in there. Right, the next one's personal space. So this was a request, and then me and one of my clients came up with like a rule of how far we thought was acceptable to speak, and we measured it out using a meter stick. So basically, it's about standing too close or too far away from people when you're talking to them. So yeah, we thought that this was quite a reasonable rule, which was 1 meter apart. You're basically not standing across the room like you're avoiding them, but you're not also standing so close that you can feel their breath on your face. And also, like, imagine if you've ever been in a situation where somebody literally stands like half a foot away from your face. It's the most uncomfortable thing in the world. So imagine you're also guilty of that. How it feels for other people, because if you know it's discomforting for you. So obviously, as usual, it depends. Context changes everything. So it depends on the situation. It depends even on the relationship, and it depends on your environment. So if you're talking to somebody about something private, naturally you'll probably want to stand closer, and you'll want to lower your voice. But if there's other people around, I would probably move to another room or somewhere more private, because whispering in the room is just as rude. So people will think you're talking about them. I don't know if anybody's ever been in a room and two people started whispering, and like, logically, rationally, they're not talking about you, but you just feel like they are. Even if they share what they were talking with after, I feel I'm still like, yeah, were you though? Get a bit paranoia. So yeah, if it's actually private, then just, you don't want the whole room to hear it. You don't want to be caught out whispering. A bit dicky sometimes. So yeah, just, I guess, normal conversation about 1 meter. give or take. I probably wouldn't give any more than a meter, then it might feel a little bit weird. Private conversation, move somewhere private if you can. And yeah, that's what we came up with. Right, the next one is is farting and burping in public. So this, oh, sorry, I knew I wouldn't be able to hold a straight face with this, which is so immature. But yeah, so this one depends on culture. In some cultures, burping seen as quite acceptable, especially around food, and in other people, it can be seen as rude. So a really important cultural context there. Farting in public, though, is apparently, I've checked, and it's just not socially accepted by anyone. It seems to be, unless there's obviously places that are not recorded on the internet, and there could be like, I don't know, could be tribes that nobody knows about. Sorry about that. So yeah, like farting's pretty universally unaccepted. You don't want to be farting around people. Just do it in your own space. Obviously bodies are bodies, like things happen. It's not about shaming a normal bodily function, but the general rule is that if you can avoid farting and burping in public or a shared space, then avoid it. If it happens accidentally, most people just say sorry, pardon me, or excuse me, and they just kind of move on. They don't usually do like a full apology tour. So if you're an oversharer, like you don't need to tell everyone you farted. Only if someone heard you, or because what the thing is like the advice online is like conceal the fart. Sorry, conceal the fart. But I mean, experience would have me say that it doesn't matter whether anyone can hear it or not, like you're still at risk. So just leave the room. Nowhere is safe. And burping, most people can make that quiet. And you can just say, excuse me. But yeah, just try and it depends how it, like, is it an emergency fart? I don't know. But yeah, if you're an oversharer, beware. You don't need to share with everyone that you farted. You also don't, like, you might get embarrassed and feel the need to overshare about it. But yeah, you don't need to tell the whole room. If you leave the room to fart as well, you don't need to come back in and announce. And this, you don't need to announce it to everybody. You can just go out, leave the room. Nobody will ask. Nobody will even be thinking, I wonder where they went. They'll probably just think you went to the toilet or something. Better yet, just go to the toilet. Go to the toilet, count to 30. Now count to like 60 or they'll think you've not washed your hands. And then you'll have to tell them, no, I wasn't in the toilet, I was just farting. But yeah, just try not to fart around everyone. Right, moving on to another one. I've got over my giggles. I just think it's so funny that somebody actually messaged me during this series and asked me, could you include one on farting and burping around the place? And it helped. Apparently it helped having this rule written down somewhere so that they knew that it was true. You're not to fart around the place. Right, so the next one is eating in the office. This one's actually mine. And it was because I used to take tuna salad to work a lot, and I remember reading something about acceptable lunches to eat in the office, and I was like, what are they talking about? Like, you can eat anything in the office as long as there's a microwave to heat it up. But obviously I wasn't thinking of like other people's perspectives, because I obviously didn't have as much self-awareness back then. But yeah, I was taking like tuna salads and stuff into confined spaces and just not thinking anything of it. And then I said to my colleague, I read this thing about acceptable lunches. And they were like, yeah, like you have to obviously like have something that's not that smelly and stuff to like not offend other people. And I was like, why eat fish all the time? And they were like, yeah, it's so smelly. I thought, why have you never told me that? And they were like, I just didn't want to make you feel uncomfortable about your lunch. I also eat the same thing continuously every single day, so probably best to let me know. But yeah, most people might not tell you about this because they don't want to start conflict. Also, if they know you're funny about food, they might not want to put you off your food, but I mean, I really wish they had. Things that are smelly and I think it's mostly just things that are smelly. Even if you think they're a nice smell, if it's a strong smell, this is what I usually use, if it's a strong smell, try and avoid it in confined places. If you sit in a cafeteria and the cafeteria is quite big, you don't really need to worry at all. Like, there's going to be loads of different smells going on in there. But if it's quite a small space, confined area, or if you're sitting at your desk and there's other people working around you, then stick to blander smelling foods. Things like fish and stuff. I personally absolutely adore the smell of all curries, but I think curry is one of the ones that was on the list. It's just a strong smelling food. So yeah, be cautious about whether you think it's nice or not, because it's not a personal preference of smells, it's strong smells, full stop. Another thing to be mindful of as well, and this will help it kind of sink in for you if you're like, well, it shouldn't matter what I eat, is that it's not just autistic people that are sensory sensitive. It just becomes an autistic kind of crossover when, it's paired with other traits and when it kind of affects your daily functioning. But sensory sensitivities are really common in everybody. So it's a normal human trait to have different variations of sense. So like, I know people who can't be around other people with like strong perfume because they get migraines. They're not any form of neurodivergent. Well, I mean, it's debatable, but they're not any form of neurodivergence from what I know. But they're not. They're genuinely not. So I mean, I guess what I'm saying is that it's not just an autism thing to be sensory sensitive. It's an everybody thing. So mindfulness, we have to meet people in the middle here. It's not my needs are more important than everybody else's. It's my needs are important, but so are other people's. I guess our needs are important. So yeah, be mindful of that. And I guess be mindful that it's not a personal preference of smell, it's just a strong smell altogether. You can also ask people if they mind if you eat in the area. Like, it might not bother people. I personally have an issue with the smell of other people's food unless it's curry again. Like, I don't care who's got the curry, I love curry. And yeah, I guess like some people might not feel comfortable telling you because they don't want to offend you. Nobody really wants to start shit at work. They don't know maybe how you're going to take it. They might not want to make you feel uncomfortable and you feel like you have to leave the room, and then they feel like they're kind of like isolating you or whatever. If they know have sensitivities around food, they might not want to put you off your food. I mean, I think it was quite obvious that I had food sensitivities. This was well before I was diagnosed with autism as well. But yeah, I used to eat the same food for about 6 to 8 months, sometimes a year. I mean, I've been eating the same breakfast every single day for 2.5 years. And I actually get really upset if I don't have it. And I eat the same thing, but I add things to it. So like I started adding seeds to it, so it's a bit crunchier. Or I add mango to it or whatever. It's chia porridge, just in case you are interested. And so yeah, people might not want to offend you or put you out if they think you've got food sensitivities, because that might be like your safe food. But yeah, like other people might have smell sensitivities. Sorry. So I guess it's about meeting in the middle and it's about compromise. Can you eat something else? Or do you just not want to? I guess that's what you'd probably have to ask if somebody had a problem with you and you had a problem with them having a problem with you having that food. Anyway, moving on. Right, so the next one is repeatedly calling someone. So I think it's generally understood that if it's an emergency, it's a bit different, but calling someone over and over again can come across as quite intense, it's quite pressuring, and it can even be seen as harassment. The same goes for text. So if someone's not replied to you, send one message, that's fine. You might even follow up depending on the situation, but I think repeatedly calling, texting, or demanding a response can make the person feel quite cornered. And I guess the tricky thing is that your intention might not be bad. You might not have bad intentions, but I actually had a client once, which is where this one came from, is that they told me that their friend had fallen out with them because they kept calling and texting repeatedly when their friend didn't answer. And they genuinely didn't mean it maliciously. They weren't trying to scare them or pressure them. They just wanted a reply there and then. They were impatient and they just didn't realise how it was coming across. But from the other person's side, it was obviously overwhelming and it was way too much. So I think they realise is that if it's not urgent, give someone time to reply. If it's an emergency, totally different. And I guess an emergency might be something like someone's unsafe or you need immediate help or there's sort of time sensitive information that they need to know, like they need to know now. Time sensitive information is not something they need to know by the end of the week and you're demanding that they respond to you now so you can tell them. But yeah, like I want an answer right now, or I demand an answer right now rather than I need it is not the same as an emergency. So yeah, just be mindful of how that can come across to other people. And it's not nice if it happens. If it's ever happened to you, you'll know yourself. It's really not nice. It kind of feels a bit trapping as well because we use our phones for so many things. So if you're just trying to have like a zone out, and you just don't want to reply to anybody for a moment, you just need some time out and your phone keeps blowing up and you're, I guess, maybe watching a video or something or listening, maybe you're listening to an audiobook or something or watching a YouTube video, and your phone's blowing up, it's uncomfortable. So yeah, just be mindful of that. Emergency, cool, but if it's not an emergency, maybe once with a very situational dependent follow-up only.
Back to reality.